Hello, I'm Vicki and I'm going to be your guide for this virtual Heritage Open Days tour of the Royal Pump Rooms. We're currently in the assembly room, which really is the heart of the building. This is the original part of the Royal Pump Rooms. It's been built on over its 200 years history, and this part opened in 1814, when the Royal Pump Rooms became the fifth of 6 bathhouses to be opened in the town. The spa water of Leamington was first noted in 1480, when it was described as being used to make bread, preserve meats, and also was thought to be a cure for rabies. However, it wasn't until the late 18th century that the spa waters were commercially exploited and Leamington became the spa town that we know today. The first well was on the Earl of Alresford's land, and it was situated just over the other side of the parade, outside of the All Saints Parish Church. And a well house was built over it, but the Earl of Alresford was adamant that the water be provided free of charge to the people of Leamington. This was at odds with what was happening in other towns in the country. Bath, Harrogate, Cheltenham, people were starting to exploit the spa waters, and leisure towns were being built around them. Two entrepreneurs of Leamington, William Abbott and Benjamin Satchwell, decided that they would like to get a piece of the action, and they started looking for a source of spa water on their own land. So they were digging south of the River Leam, and they eventually found a source of spring water on William Abbott's land, and they built a bathhouse over it, and this opened in about 1786. From then, others joined in, and spa houses popped up across the town south of the river. Alongside them were hotels, public houses, and libraries and theatres, and the market opened in 1813. It was decided around this time that the town should be developed north of the river, and a search was made to find a source of spring water here. In 1810, the well that the Royal Pump Rooms sits on was discovered, but it's only just north of the River Leam. It's literally on the riverbank. So the well was discovered, but building work started in 1811, and by 1814 the building was opened. And as I said, this room was the original spa building, and behind it was a corridor where there were 20 baths providing a mix of hot, cold and tepid water for you to take the waters. You could also, as well as taking a bath, the treatment included drinking spa water, and that was provided from a fountain that was situated in this room, just in the alcove, just over there. So, this room, when I'm in it, I always think of, takes me back to the days of Jane Austen, and you can just imagine the ladies and gentlemen walking around the room, sipping their water, chatting, and listening to the bands that might be playing. Because as well, walking was part of the spa routine as well. So you would come here, you'd consult a doctor, and they'd prescribe water, they'd prescribe a diet of food, and they'd prescribe lots of exercise. And so while the real benefit or effect of Leamington's waters was a laxative effect, the whole healthy lifestyle that a visit to the spa town promoted would obviously be of benefit to you. Shortly after the Royal Pump Rooms was opened, the Pump Room gardens were laid out alongside it purely for the benefit of the patrons of the building, so they could promenade around the gardens again whilst sipping their water, and a band would play at the bandstand. Taking a look around the building, you can see I'm standing next to this beautiful marble effect pillar. When the building was refurbished in 1997, conservation architects came in and they peeled back 13 layers of paint to reveal this original colour scheme that you can see. So there's this beautiful lilac, the golden marble effect pillars, it's all painted. Also in this room we have what we affectionately call the fluses, standing in the four corners. They're made of plaster and they were sited in this room by 1841. Also in this room are the four crests, and they are the crests of the families that make up the coat of arms for the town. We'll now move on to our next room. The land that the Royal Pump Rooms was built on was owned by the Great Heath family. They were slave owners who had a sugar plantation in St Kitts. The building was designed by Warwick architect C.S. Smith in a Roman style with a cottage roof. There were separate entrances for men and women at either side of the building, and the water was drawn via a Bolton & Watt 2 horsepower steam engine. We're now in the marble corridor which runs along the back of the assembly room, and the individual bathrooms came off of here. These were later converted into treatment rooms and then physiotherapy rooms. Leamington's main competitor as a spa town was Cheltenham, and the promoters of the town often compared the building and the spa facilities more generally favourably with those of Cheltenham. For example, the owners of the Royal Pump Rooms boasted that you could watch your bath being drawn and it was done in under 3 minutes, something which you couldn't do at Cheltenham, and who knew if you were getting your own fresh water there or if someone else had used it before you. By the 1840s, Leamington's success as a spa town was already beginning to wane as the new railways took people to the burgeoning coastal resorts. In the 1860s, it was really feared that the Royal Pump Rooms would close down. It was no longer financially viable. And the Leamington Courier ran a campaign to save the building. It was then that Dr. Jefferson and John Haddon stepped into the breach to help to save the building. They ran a fundraising campaign, receiving money from local people. Dr. Jefferson even wrote to Lord Leo at Stoneleigh Abbey to raise funds to refurbish the building. They were successful, and as part of the refurbishment, they added the beautiful Turkish bath suite. We're in the hammam, which is the last room on the Turkish bath experience, and this is where you would come to sit and relax at the end of your Turkish bath treatment. They also added a swimming pool and they remodelled the front of the building. So a tower and pediment were added to the roof, and the columns were respaced into their present configuration. Now this is my favourite room in the whole building. It's absolutely beautiful. As I said, this was the last room that you would come to after having a Turkish bath. So you'd go through a series of rooms, each one becoming progressively hotter, and then you'd come here, sit down on a recliner, be wrapped in towels and just relax at the end of your experience. And this is the whole Turkish bath suite is now where the museum is. See, some of the original features in the room still exist. So we have the beautiful tiled floor. There is a piece of the painted decoration that was added in the 1880s, and some of the stained glass is also original to the building. In 1889, the large running hall, which is now the library, was opened. It was designed by Borough Surveyor William de Normanville, and the roof featured 2 sprays which showered bathers below with water. Shortly afterwards, in 1899, a new spa manager, Charles Ravenhill, took over the running of Royal Pump Rooms. He introduced new types of treatments, including Vichy douche, which was performed on this slab here, which was actually built at the Royal Pump Rooms, and also new treatments using light and heat therapies. in the art gallery, which was originally the swimming pool that was added with the Turkish bath in 1861, opened in 1863. When the pool was originally opened, it was used by men and women on alternate days. Later, when the larger swimming pool was opened, that was the gentleman's pool, reserved only for gentlemen, and this became known as the ladies' pool. In 1948, the NHS took over the running of the physiotherapy and hydrotherapy treatments here, with the local authority retaining control of the amenities such as the Turkish baths and also slipper baths that have been added by that stage. There then followed a series of further changes to the building. So the roof tower and pediment were removed because they were structurally unsound, and a ramp was added to this pool to convert it into a treatment pool, so people could be wheeled directly into the pool and receive hydrotherapy treatments from a physiotherapist who would either be in the water with them or standing at the side. During this early part of the NHS's history in the building, there was a polio epidemic in the country, and lots of children with polio were treated here in the pool. People were also treated here for road accidents. The alcoves that line one side of the wall were initially changing rooms for the swimming pool. Later, they were converted into individual treatment rooms where people could receive things such as a vortex bath treatment. The final room of our tour is the South Annex, also known as the Conservatory, which was added to the building in 1910. When it was built, the spa water fountain was removed from the assembly rooms to where I am standing now, and this is where you would come to take the spa water. You could pay a subscription to use this room. There were comfortable chairs and you could read the papers while having the water or a cup of tea. Later, the room was used as a patient's lounge. So after you received your treatment, your physiotherapy treatment or electrotherapy treatment, you would be brought here to relax before going on home. And this room really highlights the fact that as well as the medical use of the building, it's also always being used for leisure and relaxation, for people to meet up and have a cup of tea and a chat. There was a cafe originally in the assembly rooms, and that's later moved into the North Annex where it is today. So it just continues this history of relaxation, leisure and pleasure at the Royal Rooms. I hope you've enjoyed the tour today. If you'd like to discover more about the building, please book to visit the Art Gallery Museum where you can find out much more. Thank you.